Welcome to Lawyers Who Learn, where we explore how attorneys' engagement and lifelong learning fuels their growth. Join us to uncover these journeys and gain insights for your legal career.
Dominic, welcome to Lawyers Who Learn. I'm really excited to dive deep into your background and understand how you find the time to do all that you do.
Thanks for having me, David.
Absolutely. Well, so we just recently connected on LinkedIn, and the reason I was excited about talking to you, and I said let's just do it on the podcast, is I guess the title under your name, you said building the future of legal practice. And that's something we believe in at Lawline as well, and what we're focused towards. And so what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to go through everything that you do right now and that you've done over your career, or, we're going to highlight it. We're going to focus on, what you've learned and how you've learned it, because there's so many attorneys who are now overwhelmed about how to prepare for the future of law when it comes to not just AI, but everything that has changed, and technology is obviously a big part of it. So let's start. There's so many places to start, but let's just start with, okay, where are you located, and tell me just a brief history of your background, and we'll go from there.
Yes, I'm based here in Zurich, Switzerland, and I started my legal career studying here in Zurich, then in Geneva, where I graduated my first master. Got lucky to secure a traineeship with a medium-sized law firm, which I didn't enjoy too much. It felt like getting married without the option of divorce. And I set the bar exam in Zug and started working for a private bank here in Zurich, in the financial industry. And from there, I went to London for a postgraduate study for an LLM, and came back to Zurich and started working for a securities dealer. Super interesting company. Within 4 years, they went IPO. I shortly before joined the company, and I really experienced this entrepreneurship in a company. They grew super fast, and I felt motivated to start my own company. So I left this company where I was working as a legal counsel in the legal department, and I started my first legal tech company called Get Your Lawyer, which is basically a marketplace for legal services.
So let's pause there for 1 second. So, okay, so Get Your Lawyer, you started before your current law firm. How do you pronounce it? Ponte Nova?
Ponte Nova, yes.
Yes. So that was the first. So you graduated. When did you graduate law school?
2008.
And then
the bar exam 2010.
And then for 7 years you worked at this law firm.
A bit less, yes. No, it wasn't a law firm. It was a securities dealer, a financial institution. I worked for in the in-house legal department. Yeah.
So just let me ask you this: what did you learn there that you think that has helped you in your career today?
I mean, from a legal practical perspective, risk management, and setting priorities right, because in an in-house team you're always extremely busy, so you could definitely work more hours than there are hours in a day. But I also really was interested in my peers, so I had the chance to work with really great and smart people, and that inspired me. How hard the way you work, how hard you work, but what also what you can achieve in a highly skilled team.
And then what was the moment where, because when you shifted to get your lawyer, which is a complete 180, what was the catalyst that, like, what happened to lead to that?
I would say I was always ambitious, and working in a legal department, there's just very limited career options. So there's one general counsel, and depending on when this person decides to make the space available, or when this person decides to leave, then you get the chance to grow into the next position. And for me, I was just not patient enough to wait. And it was super frustrating at some point. Then I decided, okay, I'll take my chances and start something by my own.
And how did you decide to start Get Your Lawyer, which is essentially, if I understand, it's a way to find, in Switzerland at least, it's one of the. Why don't you tell us what it is? But in terms of finding lawyers, like it just, I don't get how you went because a lot of attorneys, like let's just talk about this one attorney who's listening to this potentially, who also wants to be an entrepreneur. Legal tech right now is booming. A lot of attorneys are leaving their practice or going straight from law school, and they want to start a company.
Look, it was more it was more a motivation. So I just looked at my potential within a larger firm and the career path. And having a career in legal is quite predefined. And it's pretty obvious what the next steps will be. And I just pictured myself, how would my life be in 10 years or 15 years? And I compared myself to my peers, how hard they worked, and what will be the best possible outcome. It just wasn't appealing to me. It was like, okay, I'm going to work another 10 years super hard, and then I will end up being a general counsel in a listed company. And I decided for myself that's not worth it. And then I decided to quit, and the only thing in mind was I'd like to start my own company, but I haven't had any idea what to do. So I really quit into the blue. And then I got some inspiration. I went to Burning Man. It's a bit cliche.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and I met so many great people. And I'm Swiss, and I really admire the US way on how to take on risk and just give it a try. And I was clearly inspired by that. And then I pursued my dream, building my own company. And I thought, okay, what I'm good at. So I understand a bit about legal. And I understood if you want to build a tech company, I always wanted to build something which is scalable, not selling my hours. I didn't like that about being a lawyer. And it was like, okay, legal tech, that should be a match. And actually, I met my CTO back at Get Your Lawyer over a web page with an announcement. He was looking for a guy with an idea for a company. So we met over lunch, and I had some very vague ideas. So the first idea was we're going to automate deeds, notarized deeds, for incorporating companies here in Switzerland. Need to notarize this act. And so I'm also a notary public myself, and I always really disliked doing these repetitive tasks. And so that was the first idea, and we started doing that until we we realized that's not really going to be a business for various reasons. And then we pivoted, and then we started building this marketplace for legal services.
And just fast forward to today, just so we can get a sense. How big is the company? How involved is it in actually getting clients, potential clients to attorneys? Like, can you give us some scope?
It's around 200 lawyers here in Switzerland. On the supply side, these are the lawyers, and demand is the digital marketing channels we build up. And so we learned extremely a lot with this project, but we also figured out it's more a niche product. And the limiting factor is the digital marketing channels. So they're just not as depth as we thought and hoped for. So at least in Switzerland, almost only individuals are looking for a lawyer online. SMEs and especially on enterprises, they already have the network. They don't need to find an expert online. They have their established network, business networks, working with established law firms for a long time. So in Switzerland, the segment really is individuals never thought about lawyers, then something happens in their life, and then, ticket or a divorce or whatever, and then they start searching online for first, gathering information about the situation, and then at some point
Got it.
deciding they need a lawyer, and then they find us.
And
So,
how ballpark, how many individuals
25,000.
have found attorneys through your site?
Yeah, 25,000 or 27,000, something like that.
And okay, so obviously we're going to cover a lot, and I can't, maybe a different time, I can't dive into the ins and outs of everything in building that business, but can you think of a specific story or incident or example of something you learned, or the biggest challenge you had, something you learned in that process? Because the more you can share like something specific versus just like, you got to work hard, you got to be passionate, all those things. Maybe it was in the startup phase, because I can tell you, I speak to attorneys all the time who want to start their own business, but they can't, afraid to leave their job, or they don't even know how to start it. So that would be really helpful.
I mean, a great skill set you learn as a lawyer, and which you can apply perfectly when you start your own startup, is, so we learned, okay, there's a law, and you need to read it, you need to understand it, and you need actually, how to digest information, knowledge. So this is really something we learned in law school. So you read the law. If you don't understand it, you read a book about that. But at the end, you really acquire the skill set to acquire and understand and digest knowledge. And this helped me a great deal, being confronted with, there's so many things in a startup where actually you have to deal it by yourself. You can't really delegate, and you usually don't have the money to hire experts.
Yeah.
So it's always the same. So there's a task at hand, and you need to complete it by yourself. And the faster, the better, of course, but you need to understand the issue at hand, the problems, so you can solve that. And this happens actually all the time. And also like late stage or whatever new venture you embarking, you have to find the solution, and usually have to do it yourself. And one example was with Get Your Lawyer. So we built this marketing automation, and I had no clue about marketing. And initially, we hired agencies, marketing experts, but they never really understood our business, and it never really took off. And at some point, it was okay. So it's on me to start researching, reading blog articles, and really get into the details. And then somewhat I became a marketing expert in our field. But yeah, at the end, it was on us to build this expertise in-house.
And if you had to turn that into like the general terms, is learning by doing, right? Like you sort of got to I'm gonna give the big picture, which maybe I should have done in the beginning, of who you are, just so from what I've seen online, and because it goes to trying to understand how you learn best. And so from what you share on your LinkedIn and what I've seen is, so like we just discussed, Get Your Lawyer, you started in 2017. You also are the managing partner of Ponte Nova. Did I say it right? Or I'm going to keep getting it wrong.
Correct.
Ponte Nova, which actually the way you run your firm is really interesting, in terms of allowing attorneys to sort of be independent and sort of build from there. But also one area at least that you specialize in is helping companies and individuals relocate to Switzerland or Germany, and for the tax and legal consequences. You recently launched, or you're about to launch, an AI automation tool called Beaver, BEAVR. And you also have experience in fintech, blockchain, and and you're part of a Crypto Valley Association, so you're certainly getting involved there. And so, and I'm sure that's and then if you look at your LinkedIn posts, right? You shared a LinkedIn post recently about the AI Index report, a 550-page report about what's happening there. You shared a post about AI in practice, the 100x return that Walmart is getting by integrating AI into their firm. And so it's just overwhelming for me to see all that and understand how you do all of that. And so how do you learn like if you were to take each one of these and think about what the theme, building the future of the legal practice, like take us through sort of how you do all this in terms of like starting these businesses. Do you have different people managing the businesses, but how have you learned all this information? Do you spend 4 hours a day reading? Do you watch courses all the time? Do you read a lot of books? Do you read articles? Take us through how you gain all this knowledge to be able to do that so much.
Yeah, I'm extremely curious. That's just by nature. And I really want to dig into the details to understand how it works. And nowadays, with technology, it got so easy compared to like 10, 15 years ago. But nowadays, if you don't understand the problem, you just Google, you find excellent blogs which describe it in detail with expert knowledge. LinkedIn is great. You can follow subject matter experts. And this is, for instance, what I share on LinkedIn. This is what I've seen people I follow. And most of the content I consider worthy to share with my followers. And so you can be extremely efficient getting the right information. And that helps. So I read maybe 4 hours a day. That's probably right.
Do you? But let's pause right there. You read 4 hours.
Or 3 hours in the
People
weekend.
say that, but is it real? Like it's easy to say, but is it real? Like when do you do that? Because I want to do that, but I say sometimes I do it, but I'm not actually disciplined enough to make it happen.
I mean, I start in the morning reading an hour or 1.5 hours newspapers and LinkedIn articles of people I follow, and then in the evening probably the same. I'm distracted. Maybe I watch TV on the side, but that's kind of how I really spend a lot of time.
So this is a lot of informal learning?
Yes.
Do you, obviously law school was formal learning. Are you involved in any type of formal learning right now? Courses?
No, really rarely.
What about books, even books on topics?
Actually, not so much, no.
Interesting. Okay, so when you're saying reading, so when you said you mentioned LinkedIn, where else do you get, and you mentioned newspapers. Is there any specific newspapers that really guide you as it relates to the future of the practice of law?
No, so there's probably a level of like general information about politics, news.
Sure.
There's channel for this. And then the other is more like subject matter expertise when I'm working on something and I need to understand how it works. And then you really start just, connecting the dots. Then you find a piece of information here, and then this leads you to the next and the next. And yeah, as you said, it's quite informal. But this is just like the best content for me. Usually it's written by subject matter experts.
Sure.
And it's really like the latest info about that. And books usually they're always like lagging a bit behind of what's really going on.
For sure. Do you do any teaching yourself besides sharing? Which is teaching in a way, when you share reports.
Yeah, share. So for my new startup, that's what I'm doing. I'm building now an audience. Where then I'd like to share my expertise and yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Ponte Nova for a second. When did you found that firm?
Actually, I'm not the founder. I'm the managing partner. So the company was founded in 2016, and I joined when I left Get Your Lawyer in an operational function.
And when did you leave Get Your Lawyer in operational?
End of 2020.
And are you still involved with it at all?
Yes, still a shareholder. Yes.
Got it. Okay, so, and what's your main focus that you focus on? Is it what I said in terms of relocation, or is there something else?
I'm practicing is mostly financial markets regulations and in the crypto space. Yeah, that's actually my main expertise.
So crypto is complicated, and so tell me how you've learned about that market.
Interestingly, I was involved back in 2016 with the first ICOs here in Switzerland. So this is when I get my first foot into that.
The first what?
Initial coin offering. You know, back the crazy days in 2016, 17, when like everyone launched a token.
Oh, okay. And why did you you were just interested yourself in that?
I got just lucky. I was like starting Get Your Lawyer, and I was practicing on the side to pay my bills. And you know, by now Switzerland and Crypto Valley Zug is one of the major areas with these crypto projects globally. And then through friends, they reached out. They wanted to know what to do. So this is how I got involved into crypto.
So you started, so the friends reached out and you said, well, let me figure out what's going on here. So you did some research yourself?
Yeah, that was actually really interesting because no one did it before. And they just like, hey, we have this crazy idea. We're gonna, you know, we have this company and now we can raise some funds. We're gonna issue this token and what shall we do? And it was really, that was actually one of the first ICOs here in Switzerland. So 2016, Ethereum launched. And then everyone was like on awe when they saw that they, I don't know, like 200, 300, 400 million. They raised tremendous amount of money, and after that, everyone, not everyone, but everyone in this blockchain industry, they wanted to launch an ICO as well. And then, yeah, the first company I got involved with, they just wanted to know how to do that. I had no clue myself. And this is like the best part as a lawyer, when you can then, you know, be creative and put the pieces together to say, okay, that's the regulation here, we have laws here, and that's the way we could interpret that, bringing up good arguments. And yeah, so that was very interesting.
And that is what's exciting about being a lawyer. It's almost like there's a lot of similarities in a way to being a developer for a website and a lawyer, because there's so much to learn and so much you need to keep up with, and sort of the same kind of reasoning and logic that's needed there. So, so somebody reached out to you, you said, okay, I can represent you. Then you learned how to do it by informal channels, and that's 2016. So tell us, how are you, like, what is the industry like today? You know, what have you learned in the past? I don't know, whatever, it's 8 years. You know, what have you learned that's what you think about? Yeah, what's the top 3 things you've learned about crypto in the past 8 years that would be worth giving guidance to somebody else who might be interested in getting involved in crypto right now as a lawyer?
Yeah, probably crypto is not that interesting anymore because it became highly regulated, and the regulators now are coming after all these projects, and we will probably see many criminal cases popping up anytime soon. But actually, what is more worthy to share is the learning in legal tech.
Okay. So just that's interesting. We'll go there, but that to me, I learned a lot just by what you said. You just said crypto is not so interesting anymore because it's regulated. Is that the same in the US, or is this more in the EU where it's more regulated?
I'm not an expert now for US regulations, but my understanding always was that the US had even a more prudent approach to tokens anyway. So they always considered that being securities, and then you anyway fully fledged regulated. And like in Switzerland, we had a more nuanced approach where most of the tokens are considered utility tokens and therefore not regulated at all.
Got it. Okay,
And
we'll pause
yeah.
there. So last question, your prediction in 10 years, what will Bitcoin be? How much will it be worth in 10 years?
Yeah, most likely more than now.
Oh, more, not zero. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd say most people either say zero or
No, it's interesting. With Bitcoin is really you can't compare Bitcoin with any other token.
Okay. Because
the mechanism of Bitcoin is set up that at some point it will stop creating new ones.
yeah.
So it's not an infinite source, it's a finite source, and this is also what keeps the value compared to other projects.
All right, I'll pause. I could dive deeper here too, but I'm going to pause. Tell us what you've learned. Tell us about the learning in legal tech, because certainly the past couple of years, past 12 months have been transformational. And I know, maybe 8 years ago, there was one focus and things have shifted over the past 8 years. So what have you learned there?
Yeah, so the great learnings is that when we started, we really wanted to automate core workflows. Legal skills or like automate legal documents. And we had to stop there because there are not enough use cases with enough volume for these very highly manually automated cases. So it's from a business perspective, mostly not worthy to building these automation cases. That was the learning with Get Your Lawyer. This is when we did the pivot and start to automate peripheral workflows. So that means getting clients in with marketing automation, automating the way you invoice. So everything around the core legal advice part. And a few great legal tech companies have been built on that, also in Germany. Like flight delay cases. So there's a law when a flight is delayed, you have a consumer protection claim that you get compensation, and they build really high efficient automation processes around that to make money. But until shortly, no, there wasn't really a strong use case in automating legal advice itself. So this was always the part where the humans still just did old school reading, applying knowledge, and giving advice using Word, and at the end drafting legal documents. This has now fundamentally changed with the event of LLMs. Like 2 years ago, with like 3 or 3.5, the version of ChatGPT, it got to a level where you could say, wow, okay, this you could start using for creating documents. And this is now why I started a new company, because that's a huge opportunity now.
And just ask you one question. Just when you say LLMs, learning language models, it predominantly, if you're talking about a law firm, are you talking about them using something like Microsoft Azure because it's more safer and enclosed environment versus just ChatGPT Enterprise? It's not. I mean, I guess that is in Azure, but is that what you mean? Or obviously there's a lot. That's where it's a little confusing, and this is not a podcast today on AI and LLMs, but it seems like there's a lot people need to, a lot you've learned during that process, right? So meaning when you say LLMs, what are you referring to?
Oh yeah. LLMs, but we also there's the Azure OpenAI LLM available, so you can also build within Azure.
Which one do you recommend? Like if I'm a legal tech company and I want to build out a new product for a law firm, should I be building it in Azure? Like I just want to understand that. Or if a law firm, should I be building something in that's the go-to?
I mean, then, for law firms, that was also the learning with Get Your Lawyer. So you're having users, customers, there's the client, attorney-client privilege, there's data security. So clearly more constrained than other industries when using these tools. So the prevailing question then is more, how can I build a tech stack which is compliant with my requirements? And currently then you end up with Azure, most likely, because other tools don't provide this level of security, which then is in sync with your tech stack anyway using at your firm.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I interrupt you as you were talking about how LLMs have been. Yes, that it does seem very. I was going to say the power of what you were saying was bringing out the light. But all right. So just to, if you can bring it through, so where are we at today with sort of where LLMs are going to be, or AI is going to be, what attorneys need to learn and how it's going to be transforming their practice?
We're only at the beginning of this journey, and the capabilities of these models, they will advance super fast. Like over the last 12 months, it was just amazing to see how better they got. And so very important for any lawyer out there is just embrace technology, be curious, and try to learn. So I wouldn't say that there's yet a tool which dominates the market. We're just about to see many new companies and many new tools which will be made available to us. So we're only at the beginning, but being curious clearly helps. It's a bit complicated when you work in a large law firm because you can't just test tools yourself in your working environment because you're technically restricted. You can't download, you can't just use tools which are not approved. So you can do that in your spare time at home. If you're a smaller law firm, that's also an advantage maybe, because you can adopt new tools way faster than larger law firms.
Well, so just circling back to what we started with, which was building the future of the legal practice. What you're talking about now, what is building the future? Like, what do you do? What are you focused on in helping build the future of legal practice? What should attorneys be focused on?
I mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, there are two parts. The one is a technological part to it. So embrace new tools. You need to understand how they work, because if you don't, you will not be competitive anymore, because there's so many tasks which can be automated. You can't bill them anymore to your clients. They will not accept paying that if you do it manually. But the good thing is, these are more the cumbersome, boring part of your daily tasks. So you will be totally happy to use these tools. And currently, you probably delegate that to associates. Now the tools can do that for you. So you daily tasks will become more interesting. You can also focus more on strategy and client focusing time, work, meetings, client relationship building. So that's actually good news. And then the other part to building the legal practice of the future is a law firm as an organization itself. This is what we do here at Ponte Nova. And also what we actually started with Get Your Lawyers, like bring transparency into the legal practice. And the problem at most law firms is the partner model. Like having a lockstep model. And this is what I told you at the beginning. When I did my traineeship, it felt like getting into a marriage without the option of divorce. Because most organizations are built in a way that you're going to commit yourself for a very long time, and once you made it, well, once you join the honeypot, you're not going to leave, and that's mostly because of the revenue system, and we believe we could build with technology another kind of a system which allows collaboration, where we bring collaboration to the center. where we have a revenue share model. The law firm only going to take a very low fee to maintain this tech stack, and the partners can embrace collaboration, build a brand together, but also providing with this revenue split model. Of course, it comes with responsibility and also a bit of pressure. So you eat what you kill, but it comes also with great freedom. So nowadays you can work from wherever you want. We rarely see clients in person physically. Most of them, since COVID, are totally happy with a call, with a video call. So technically you could work from wherever you want. And so this is the kind of culture we embrace here at Ponte Nova. We want to build for the future. So it's not only the tech stack, but it's also how you build an organization.
Wow. I honestly get super inspired by that. Because too often all we talk about is the tech stack, but not how to rethink your law firm as an organization, especially for small to mid-sized firms, and how to bring, if I understood, how to bring on attorneys from the beginning with the rev share type split as a partner kind of mentality. Obviously, there's risk to that, and I'm curious, so I appreciate that, and there's a lot to learn there, and it makes me wonder. Lawline is, as I was telling you in the beginning, before we started the podcast, we're the largest provider of online continuing legal education in the United States. And we really focus a lot of our courses on helping prepare attorneys for the future of law. Today, it's about, AI and what that's going to mean. But there's a lot of law practice management. There's a lot of mental health. And so I guess, what advice would you have for us? Because I'm sold on that model, especially because even though you're from Switzerland, and to me, too often when I hear people talk like that is like, well, the Americans, they're the entrepreneurs. In the EU, we don't think that, like, it's not about that, but that feels very entrepreneurial, that type of law firm you're talking about. So what type of courses or learning paths or educational content should we put out there to help set up other small firms, small to mid-sized firms, to build that kind of model?
Educate about different frameworks. Lawyers are really not transparent when it comes to compensation. They're not sharing their hourly rates. That's okay, but also not sharing the compensation scheme of the law firm. That's kind of interesting. So you have all these big law firms, but when you Google, it's really hard to find out which law firm has which model in place. You're only going to learn that once you're in, or once you start working there, or you're not even then. When you're an aspirant for junior partner, they're probably only going to share the details once you really become partner. So it's very secretive. And that will be great to open that up, to talk about different models, how you can build an organization with pros and cons, so that leaders in law firms can make an educated decision on which organizational framework brings pros and cons into an organization. Because every system has perks, so and then it also depends on what kind of a law firm you want to build and what kind of talent you want to attract.
When you say framework,
but that will help. Yeah.
When you say framework, just so I can understand, is there a framework that you're following, or did you create a framework?
A bit both. So first, the legal framework we choose wasn't designed by us. We actually copy pasted that from the largest law firm globally, from Denton's. So we're organized as a Swiss association, and each partner, either with an own legal entity or as an individual, is member of this association. And this is going back to Enron. When you probably remember when Arthur Andersen went bankrupt.
Yeah.
So that like one part of this consulting firm, they were involved in advising Enron, but it infected then the entire structure. And so they had to file for bankruptcy. And this is when the Big Four started to organize themselves into like Swiss associations. So they picked the Swiss association because it's one of the most flexible legal structure for this. And like now Deloitte, Dentons, Baker McKinsey, they're all organized on the top co-level in Swiss associations. And we followed the same path. So we're also organized as a Swiss association, which then provides us the greatest flexibility for its members.
Fascinating. It led to a whole new thinking, but I'll hold that for a second. So okay, there's framework. So I'll pause it on there. Do you guys do value-based pricing, or you're strictly on the billable hour?
No, so this is the freedom we provide to our members. You can decide yourself how you want to bill, which hours, the hourly rates or the package. So this is really up to each partner, how he wants to do that.
Well, do you see value-based pricing, then, moving away from the billable hour as the future of law, at least for small to mid-sized firms?
It really depends. Lawyers are by nature a bit risk averse, so they usually provide the offer which they get the most value out for themselves. And when you're not sure on how the consultant will, or the consultancy will progress over time, then they will offer you usually an hourly based fee. So they don't have to take in the risk how the project will go on. And if they can clearly say that's the amount of time I need to complete these tasks, and they could make more money with a fixed price offer, then they usually go for that. And I can give you.
Go ahead.
I can give you an interesting example from a different industry. So just recently, when we started building out the new website, so like 10 years ago, when you worked with designers and tech guys to build a website, they always insisted on an hourly fee base, because they knew that with a website, like back and forth, and then you change requirements, you usually always end above your budget. And just now recently with this website, I noticed that these consultants, they insisted on a fixed price, because they're using now tech stack, which allows them to do the same website, usually like instead of 10 days, they do it in 1 day. And they just know, okay, we make for some time now, until our customers realize that we make way more money when we say, look, I know your budget is 10,000, I take 8, I build you an excellent website, you're going to be happy, but instead of 10 days, I only need 1 day. So this is when people start offering you, packages.
100%. And so like that's the perfect analogy to law, because as you just said, there's 2 points to the future of law. The first one is the AI and all the technologies that are going to automate things that take a lot of time, from e-discovery to a lot of the cumbersome tasks of reviewing documents. And that there's a lot you bill for that. And now that can be done automatically. How can firms get away with, that's the issue. Like, to me, that's the question, is if now what took 10 hours or 2 days can be done in an hour or two, and you used to bill for that 20 hours and now it takes 2 hours. What do you do as a lawyer? You certainly, and clients are getting smarter, especially when you're a large law firm, your clients are corporations, they're not stupid. So they're using it themselves. So something's going to have to give there, no? From the billable hour?
I mean, there's probably a transition phase to that. At the beginning, especially depending on the customer, you can make really good money now, because you start offering your service for a fixed price.
Right.
And exactly when you have an educated customer and he understands, okay, this part now can be done by this tool, then that's just taking out the leverage in the equation when it comes to pricing. But then they're gonna probably match.
When is that going to happen? When do you see that crossroads where everyone's educated enough, things are mature enough that things will have to shift?
Yeah,
Because things are moving so quickly.
Gradually, and historically, the trend will continue that law firms will have less and less work because in-house departments will take on more and more. So, I mean, I can talk for Switzerland. We can clearly see this trend started 20, 30 years ago, and it continues. And we also have a massive consolidation here in Switzerland from small law firms to large law firms. So they merge together to be more competitive. And so when we talk about legal practice, it really divides in two parts: enterprise, big law firm, and the solo practitioner. I think that's also worthwhile to talk about that, how this landscape evolves.
The solo practitioner one, you mean?
Solo practitioners.
That I think will evolve quicker because there's more incentive for the solo practitioner to because they can only work a certain amount of hours a week, and so the more they can leverage tools, the more they can scale their business. And so to me, if I was starting as a solo practitioner or a small firm, I would run towards value-based pricing right now. And build the tools to make myself be able to scale, because that's exciting to me. That's like building a business versus a service firm. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. This is a great opportunity now for solo practitioners. They can be ahead of the curve. They can be the early adapters of this technology, because large law firms, the ones we talk with, it's a very long process, right? So they shop vendors, and once they decide for one, they come with they want to have customized features and tools, and until it's really operational, it takes months, but not like a year or 1.5. So, and you as a lawyer in such a large organization, I mean, you have no saying. I mean, you're just one of many users. But as solo practitioners, that's a great opportunity, of course.
I love it. I think that's a good area to end on, because that is inspiring. Because by the way, in the U.S., I'm sure everywhere, 90% of attorneys out there are solo practitioners. Even though it's the big firms, they get all the 1 million attorneys in the U.S. I don't know, it's like 700,000 or 600,000, they're all small. And then it's the larger firms that, of course, are the meat of the pie. Now, as I said in the beginning, I'll throw it back to you, and the answer could be no. It's been a long conversation, but do you have any questions for me about what we do or about the industry or the US that kind of came to your head as we were talking? And if not, we can end it here. We just want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions as well.
Yeah, David,
since you're curious.
It's super interesting to learn about Lawline and what you build. That's amazing. So what's your greatest learning about how the law industry is progressing?
It's interesting when it's turned on you, right? And you got to answer the question. So what's interesting, I'll answer this from what I can see every day. And this is more about legal tech than the law industry. And then maybe I can circle back to that. 17 years ago, 2006, I was in law school, and I had a video camera, and I actually had an online TV show for entrepreneurs. And I said, what if I turn these cameras on lawyers and turn them into continuing legal education courses? And I knew there was a better way to do it than having 3 old men at a conference on a dais just sitting and talking. And so when we did it, we tried to make them engaging and forward thinking. And at that time, when you looked around legal tech, there was nothing there. Fast forward to then companies started coming out. I'm sure you've heard of Clio. Have you heard of Clio? So obviously Clio has been, I mean, it's one of the best stories in legal tech, or the best story, where they're, you know, they were started in a very small company, and they not only did they build a $3 billion valuation over the past 15 years, they built an entire ecosystem. And then when you start looking at the other companies that exist, there's maybe like 5 or 6 private equity firms that are doing roll-ups right now in the legal space. Lotera is one that comes to mind, but there's many of them that are buying all these small legal tech companies and rolling them up into one to try to build this almost like another Clio, like this own ecosystem. And then when I'm going to, like I said, a conference tomorrow or any different conference, you go, there's hundreds of vendors who are all small legal tech companies who just out of law school or been doing it for a while, and they're raising tons of money. There's a fund called the Legal Tech Fund. Zach Posner, I don't know if you're familiar with that. He's running it and going, I'm sure you have, he talks to everybody. So maybe you've talked to him already. I don't know, but he's investing just in legal tech companies. And so what I see is this entrepreneurial excitement that didn't exist 17 years ago. And it's really energizing. And also there's a lot of froth because there's a lot of people who are starting, there's a lot of opportunities. And so for me, what excites me the most is what the next 3 to 5 years could look like for lawyers and law firms. It's interesting just to be transparent about who we have been as a business up until maybe 5 years ago. We have served for the first 13, 14 years, you know, since 2006, solo practitioners were our number one client, or small firms. We've had all the large firms take individual courses with us, but we never had like large accounts. Over the past 5 years, we've been working with a lot of the AmLaw 100 firms. And it's interesting to see because I can speak to the education, what they're doing is they're building really sophisticated learning programs, which involves many different vendors, including us, in-person stuff, role-playing. Some of them hire actors to come in and do whole sort of scenarios to role-play. So they're investing a lot in there. And then, of course, so I think I could speak to that in terms of what's actually happening in the legal space. I'm not necessarily the best expert to speak on, because I'm just trying to catch up with how to educate lawyers. So I hope that helps.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for taking the time and taking a leap of faith to do a program with me. And I don't know about you, but I feel like there was a lot of really great stuff in here that we will share. And what I will do, in addition to the podcast when it goes live, over the course of time, we're going to take different video clips from this and put it in LinkedIn and different areas, social media, because there's a lot of golden nuggets you shared. So people will get a lot of value and inspiration, and we will stay connected. And I hope to meet you in person someday as well, Dominic.
Yes, looking forward. Enjoy London. Have a good time.
Thank you.
And let me know when you make it to Switzerland.
I will be back soon. Maybe sooner than you think. So hopefully.
Yeah. Reach out.
Thanks.
Be great.